Well, it must be Monday because here he is. He says that I always claim that he's the man who needs no introduction, and then I introduce him anyway. So Larry Goldberg joins me today as co-host. He's no longer a guest. You know, there's a difference between a guest and a co-host, Larry.
They both don't get paid, so I don't know what.
Well, there is that. So, all right. So Larry said to me before we got started here, he said, Randy, I don't see it on your list. He says, I think there's a story that you've forgotten all about today. So Larry, he says, share the screen, throw it up there, and let's have a look.
I mean, it is charitable to call this a story, because it is just, but it really is, I think, a little bit of fun we can have. Can you see my screen?
I can see it just fine.
And, this is a post of, this is a Twitter post, an X post, excuse me, saying Twitter on my screen.
I know.
This is a post from of a Jeffries piece, Philip Houchois. I take it that's how he pronounces his name. Houchois. Okay. He cut the price target to $210 a share from, I guess they were at like 220, were they?
250, I think. 250.
Oh, 250. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because 2024 is already a lost year for growth. Well, they're going to do 1.8 million, which keeps them in line for their 50% a year increase over the period of time from the 500,000 in 2018. There isn't another, other than BYD, which is actually over that period of time, not quite that level yet, but getting there. Huh? So 2023 has been very, very good for Tesla. And I suspect, I'm calling for 2.4 million cars in 2024. Everybody's, including Troy, by the way, and Troy is very, very good at this stuff, is much lower. They're at 2.2 and lower.
Yes.
But, there are car manufacturers that would give their left
yes
their eye teeth
yes
for that kind of growth, but that would be low for Tesla,
and it would bring them below the 50% per year starting in 2000.
It would be, but when you read what they said from
yes
that it would be over time.
Yes.
It will be 50%, and that some years will be lower and some years will be higher.
Yep.
But I will say this: there are clear, problems. I don't know if we've had the Chinese numbers yet. I guess it's going to come overnight. But if the Chinese numbers come in well, we'll do our 1.8 million.
Yes.
This year. But anyway, back to Jeffries.
Yes.
They're saying that 2024 is a lost year for growth, which, that's an opinion, and that's fine. Yes. That's not the joke.
No.
The real joke is they're calling for Tesla to cancel the Cybertruck. And they're saying that would be positive for shares.
I mean, I've seen some. This is almost on a Johnson level.
No, this is Johnson plus. This is Johnson squared. Because when you think, you know what? I'm sure everybody knows by now, but Elon responded with a clown.
Yes.
Clown emoji.
Yes.
And he took the emoji right out of my keyboard. Because I was in the process of, tweeting or posting, I should say, posting a clown emoji. He took it right off my keyboard.
Funny.
It is mind-boggling, and I saw a lot of people posted these very words. it would be mind-boggling that somebody would cancel a vehicle with 2 million pre-orders.
It's hard. It's hard. I can't even. I tried to get inside. That's what you're supposed to do, right, Larry? Walk in his shoes. Think like him.
Yep.
I couldn't find a way
I couldn't.
to see his logic. I couldn't. He goes on to say they need to concentrate on getting the Gen 3 vehicle out. That's where the action's going to be. Okay, that's fine, but you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. This made no sense to me at all.
No, it didn't. And the counterpoint to this is this famous or infamous short seller who's closing his fund.
Jim Chanos.
Mr. Chanos started a fund with something like, was it 2 billion or 6 billion?
I don't recall at all.
A very large amount of money.
Yes.
It may have been more than 6 billion. He was the darling of Wall Street. He had a particular correspondent. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but he definitely played all the short selling cards, and he opined with great gravity, and people loved to have him on. And he talked about Tesla in the most demeaning possible fashion, really serious demeaning. He's just closed this multi-billion-dollar fund with less than $200 million left in the kitty.
Yeah.
How do you burn money like that?
He bet against Elon. You just don't want to do that.
That's how you burn money like that. And Mr. Hushwa, or whatever the correct pronunciation, I should have checked it, he is burning reputation.
That's right. Well, Larry, if you could stop the screen share, I'd like to go on to the next story.
Okay.
And what we've got next is that Tesla has released some of the specs. So the speculation can end with regard to some of the specs. So we have actually, apparently down in San Diego, they are showing in the showroom down in San Diego, they've got a new Cybertruck. And part of that is there's some kind of advertising down there that goes with this vehicle that's in the showroom. Apparently, they're also shipping Cybertrucks to showrooms all over the country. But anyway, the payload is now confirmed at 2,500 pounds, towing at 11,000 pounds, and both of those are better than the Lightning.
Yeah.
So that would be.
We don't know yet. Is that how many motors has got? 2 motor? Is that the 2 motor vehicle?
That's the 2 motor version. Yes. Yeah. So don't know if there's going to be a 4 motor version, if they're going to be offering both at the beginning. All we know right now is that was the spec that was offered in this little demo.
And there was also a post that claimed there's only going to be 10 vehicles delivered to staff on the 30th.
That's a rumor that has been very hard to get any kind of confirmation on, but it wouldn't be crazy to only be 10 if they're shipping finished units all over the country to showrooms. So,
right. And I remember they delivered 30 Ys on the day that we were at Texas for the I guess it was for the Giga Texas rodeo. They delivered 30 to staff, but that was the Y. So if they deliver 10, do we think that they're up to this 25 a week production that has been rumored?
I have the only thing that we have on that, we have Tegmeyer, who is taking some drone shots, and he can kind of see what's really going on in that regard. I think the number that they're generating now is going to be fairly, I would call it insignificant compared to what we learn, say, 30 days from now. I think once we get past the opening day and they start concentrating on the actual ramp, that will be very interesting to see if we get the information as to how they're doing.
Right. Right.
So Electric is reporting, Goldman Sachs research now expects battery prices to fall below $99 a kilowatt hour of storage capacity by 2025, a 40% decrease from 2022. And earlier they had forecast only a 33% decline. Their analyst estimates that almost half of the decline will come from declining prices of EV raw materials such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt. Battery pack prices are now expected to fall by an average of 11% per year from now till the end of this decade, according to I didn't look this one up, Nikhil Bhandari, co-head of Goldman Sachs Research, Asia Pacific Natural Resources and Clean Energy Research in the team's report. It's important to note that Goldman Sachs is looking at the cost of the pack level being $99, not the cell level. And at the pack level, the prices may vary, they say it might vary greatly, obviously, between various automakers. So some might already be much below that current reported level, or the current reported level of 140. I think most people are thinking that Tesla is already under 100 at the pack level. I think that's what I've seen. And maybe might be as low.
Depends on the chemistry, right? What are we talking about? NICAD chemistry?
Yeah, I'm talking that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so in any case, this would be indicative of what we've been talking about forever. Tony Seba's estimations in terms of a continuously declining battery price thing, which creates the question in my mind as to what is going on with these legacy folks. I've had this conversation now with Brian Wong. I just don't understand
why General Motors just announced today that they were pushing back all the models because they're trying to right size their EV operations. So they think if they produce them later on in the cycle, they'll be less expensive, but they don't understand. They have to learn to manufacture these things, and the only way to do that is to manufacture them.
And in the meantime, they're switching all of this energy, they're switching their effort into hybrids. I mean, across the board, these legacy folks are talking about hybrids, which seems to me, Brian and I talked about it the other day. It's like, when did that work in a disruptive product? I can't remember any hybrids actually working out for anybody as the disruption was taking place.
Brian is absolutely right. This is a terrible, terrible strategy. And Mary Barra has had a god-awful strategy from the outset. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And that company is going to be in dreadful trouble.
So some people have said, Larry, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but some people have said maybe the legacy automakers are kind of in a Sears and Roebuck situation right now, where they're going to just milk the assets as long as they can, and they don't care about 2050. They don't care about 2040. They're just going to milk, sell off the assets as they go along and be done with it.
Randy, you got to understand that the executives in these companies don't care about 2040 or 2030. They're looking at their pensions, they're looking at their shares, they're looking at their earnouts, and they're looking at their retirement dates. And they're targeting to ensure that there's money in the bank for that journey. After that, they don't care.
Yeah. And we've seen this story before with these companies. There's been a few exceptions with, maybe you could call Xerox a little bit of an exception, where they've kind of bounced back a bit with some new stuff. But man, all right. So last thing on Cybertruck,
IBM.
IBM is a real good example.
I foretold the IBM disaster. I witnessed the IBM disaster. And when Gerstner said he's going to get the elephants to dance again by becoming a services-oriented company, I said, that is a losing proposition. There's nothing worse than... Anyway, they went down that path. Their stock went up a bit. Gerstner made a fortune, but the end result was catastrophic.
All right. So last thing on Cybertruck, as an investor, what are you hoping to see next Thursday? A week from Thursday. What would you like to see at the...
I'd like to see really good quality cars roll off that production line. I'd like to, more than see, I'd like to hear some evidence that we're going to see, a reasonable production next year. Elon has tamped down expectations quite dramatically. And I think he's going to keep those, keep those lower expectations. So I'm just excited, but I really want to hear about the product line. I want to hear what is the pricing, what is the offering, just so we understand all of that, so that we can actually figure it out. Look, he's already said they're only going to be producing 75,000 or something of next year. So you have to write off, the revenue from that. But we got to understand where we're going with it. And, we want to get to 300,000, in that range. We want to get to 300,000 a year. If you think about a $70,000 vehicle and 300,000 of them, you're talking about $20 billion of revenue.
Yeah.
That's not buckers. That's, at 25%, that's pretty damn good. So
and if they do another 300,000 at 49,000, that's not bad either. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'll get to 500,000 in that car, but that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. So maybe overlooked in Elon's meeting with Xi. Everybody just kind of blew past that meeting. I don't.
Not me.
You
No.
did? Okay.
No, I posted on X that the change in temperature in China for Tesla was occasioned by that meeting with Xi. That meeting by Xi was kind of the culmination of this reset, because on the day that Elon met Xi, all those notices that said no Teslas allowed in these sites that are supposed to be sensitive, all of those signs were taken down.
Yeah.
I'm told. So I think that what we saw was a process. I think there was some degree of dance around it, but that's gone away. And maybe it's because Biden is not that friendly towards Tesla. I don't know how these things work. But anyway, in the reset with the US and Xi, it appears that Elon is the big winner. And I think we're going to see, what's interesting to me is to see if those talks that 3 years ago happened about the expansion of the factory gets reinstated.
Yeah. So
I heard it here first.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I thought of this today, Larry. We're just I didn't see your post on X. It just occurred to me as I was preparing today.
You should follow me, Randy.
I should. I do. I'm sure I follow you. I just didn't see it. Okay. But I was thinking maybe because Xi needs them, that their economy is looking for some positive stuff. And number two, Elon is obviously cozying up to India. And I suspect that Xi would rather have the next gigafactory, not India.
You have to separate the issue of India and the issue of China. Okay. India's going to happen and China's going to happen.
I see.
And they're two different worlds.
Yeah, but you don't think that Elon would use that cozying up with China to,
people talk about the politics of this thing. I don't think Elon plays politics. China is a huge market and a great export base for Indochina. China is a great market and a great export source for Europe.
Right.
And that's it. Now, China does export to some countries in the Indochina world, but it would be more comfortable for many of those countries, not all of them, but many of those countries, such as Australia, to import from India. So I think that there's no doubt that we'll see a factory in India and an expansion of the Chinese factory. it makes no sense not to expand the Chinese factory. In fact, we're probably 3 years behind in doing that.
I would agree with that. So Sam Altman, I was in the green room before we started. I said that being on X the last couple of days has been more interesting than most television programs in terms of the drama quality.
Yeah, Bloomberg had a Spaces earlier this evening. They were talking about all the reporting they've been doing, and you have to look at this thing and say, this could have been such a great television series. They could have called it Silicon Valley,
That's right.
I mean, Sam Altman looks like the guy who was the lead in Silicon Valley. I mean, he even sometimes talks like it. I mean, it is, life imitating art, imitating life. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy situation. We spoke about it and we said, there's got to be something going on there, that's serious and so on. It turns out, no, there's actually nothing going on there that's serious. It's just the board is out of control because it's controlled by some people who are really lightweight. I mean, they are. I don't know.
So the Peter Principle, remember the folks who watch my show are almost all over 55, so they should all know what the Peter Principle is. Yeah. So the board of directors apparently was a perfect indication of the Peter Principle at work.
People rising to the level of their incompetence.
So,
well,
yeah. So
I think if you don't have a for-profit company, if you're not a for-profit company, and ultimately the board of directors are in charge of the not a for-profit company, then, people don't rise to the top and come to the top out of the fire of private enterprise.
Right.
They get there because they're a member of this university, this research department, and they have a smattering of entrepreneurship, but really they are sucking on the public teat.
Yeah, so that's who was running the show, huh?
Well, then there's this guy from Quora, I believe. He's also on the board. But, look, I don't know enough about it except to say that it is a clown show. It is, a clown car full of clowns. And, Sam was the adult. He's got himself a fantastic position at Microsoft. Satya's not going to be there forever. Sam is relative. It could be very interesting. So how he plays this and how he manages, but he's got a lot of experience. And, now we've got all these people who've written this letter saying, they're going to resign. I mean, they haven't resigned yet, but they're going to resign.
Right.
I don't know why you don't just resign and be done with it. Because if all 250 who ever signed the letters resign and move over to Microsoft, that's all she wrote.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on then. The conference board has been an esteemed, I wrote, this is my writing, I'm reading it. I sound like I'm a, announcer here. The conference has been an esteemed predictor of all things economic for a very long time. They reported today that the leading economic index declined 0.8% in October, which is that means they've fallen now for the 19th month in a row. Mm-hmm. The conference board expects, this is what they expect: elevated inflation, high interest rates, a contracting consumer spending, which that might be true.
That is
and
true.
This is due to depleting pandemic saving and mandatory student loan repayments. I've heard that the mandatory student loan repayments is going to have an effect of 1% on the economy at the very most. And this will tip the U.S. economy into a short recession. Larry, let me just do one more thing here. I found this article back in July. The lead time between the LEI, the leading economics index, falling from its cycle peak, and the start of all but one of the last 8 recessions has ranged from 9 months in the early 70s to 22 months before the 27 to 09 Great Recession. The average length has been 14 months, according to somebody. Anyway, and but they say that the lag time now is 17 months. This is in July. And so now we've gone to, it's more than 19 months now. If it was 17 months in July, August, September, October, that would be a lot. Well, anyway, I'm beginning to wonder whether the conference board needs to redo their thinking. It says here, the article that I quoted this from, and I didn't write it down who it was. I really haven't seen the leading indicators being quoted. That was me saying that. If the recession doesn't end this year, it will mark the longest ever lead time, new territory or a broken model. And that's when I wrote, I haven't seen it mentioned. Nobody even mentions this index anymore.
Look, we are in new territory. All the pointers are errant in the current circumstance, because we've never been through a pandemic before where the government literally shut us down, which it turns out was unnecessary. It was needless. It was a really, really bad set of decisions in the Trump administration and in the Biden administration, led by some really seriously errant, quote, experts, unquote, at the CDC. So it doesn't profit us to look at these predictive indexes, because the circumstances are so unusual. Look, I've said this about 20 times on this, maybe more, on this channel, every recession is different. You know, like unhappy families, all unhappy, every unhappy family is unhappy in a different way. Every recession happens in a different way. What we're seeing now is this rolling recession. I call it a recession, but some people are really hurting badly, and some people are doing very well.
Yes.
And it's really pockets. It's going to resolve in the coming year. And, you know, I could quote, I don't want to spend any time on it, but I could quote, you know, my friends at DataTrek, because they've done some numbers and show how out of kilter we are. But I would not be surprised if this time next year we are looking back at a Fed that has pumped up the money supply as rapidly as they can into a falling velocity, a continuing dropping velocity, because we will be in, you know, this rolling recession will have become more widespread,
more of a looming problem, which maybe they move early enough and maybe they don't.
I think they're too late already, but
I think you're too late.
yeah, I mean the last two increases in interest rates were, I think, just wrong. I mean, just the wrong call. I wouldn't have called them, and I was very disappointed that they did.
I'm still more worried about their tightening, Larry, about their continuing to tighten on the financial side as opposed to interest rates.
Yeah, they are. There's no doubt about it. And you know, I think what they're doing is they're reading this is what I just said. They're reading indexes that don't apply in these circumstances.
Right. Yeah. All right. We have Nvidia hitting all-time highs today. They recovered all of those. I mean, they dropped like a rock, and now they've recovered all of that, and they're reporting tomorrow. So what do you expect from Nvidia tomorrow? Will they beat?
I don't know if they can beat enough to justify what they've done. You know, I had seriously thought of buying some options on Nvidia. Now I'm thinking maybe you might put, but it's so dangerous. I mean, it's out of my normal behavior set. So I'm going to sit pat and just enjoy the show. I think they will beat. Because it'd be very hard for them not to beat if they had the production, if they were able to get the chips, if they were able to ship them, if they were able to deliver them. They'll do well. I just, I hope they're not shipping all of those chips to OpenAI.
Well, I thought strategically,
Yeah,
they hit it out of the park last week, which I guess is why the stock is so high now. When they announced their next gen starting to ship in March, I thought that you almost couldn't take the momentum any higher than by grabbing it right at that time and then saying, okay, next gen's coming and it's coming soon. So, and right now they're believable because they've been executing.
well, soon they'll exceed the gross domestic product of the whole world. So,
yeah, we've heard that story before. Well, Larry, let's take a look at where things are right now. We can look first of all at Tesla after hours. Tesla is up 0.17%.
but they underperformed the market today, right?
Well, they outperformed not the NASDAQ. They did not outperform the NASDAQ today.
They underperformed the NASDAQ because their beta is like they should outperform by 1.5 times.
At least. Yeah. I think, different people have different numbers. I think anytime they don't outperform by double, then I'm surprised, but then they outperform on the negative side by double as well. So the beta cuts both ways. But yeah, I think today there was some activity at the beginning of the day that they never recovered from, whether that was a continuation of the whole, issue with X and because that issue, the anti-Musk mass media has played that as they just continue to work it, but it's also a slow news week, and you can get lots and lots of bites on any anti-Musk headlines. So they have just really milked it.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, and it's certainly now looking at after hours, I think they've recovered. Maybe that's no longer going to be the issue going forward. What do you think?
Time will tell. I think, I think anytime it gets in the 240, 255 range, I think you can look for, the tripwires down the road, bringing it back a little bit until we see that 2.4 delivered and we get some, sorry, not the 2, but the 1.8 delivered, and we get some real numbers from the company for next year.
Right.
I don't think they're going to give us, not until the end of the first quarter or the second quarter.
Oh, really? You don't think we'll get one at the end of the year-end meeting?
No, because I think they have as much difficulty seeing, what's coming in the next year than we do. All I want from them is an announcement to say that they will start shipping the next gen towards the end of next year, or that they will be coming off the first beta will be coming off the production line at the end of the year. That's all we need.
I do think, though, Larry, that if they don't give guidance at the end of the year meeting for the 2024, that the stock will get hurt. I mean, they're going to beat probably on top and bottom at fourth quarter, but I think if they then don't give guidance, you might take away any benefit they might get from the beat.
Well, Troy posted today that he thinks that if they miss on the 1.8, it'll be a serious hit on the company, on the stock price.
Yeah.
And you have to take Troy very seriously because he's got a really, really good fix on this thing. He's talking about between 1.78 and 1.82, I think. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but I would be a little concerned about that. And then, in terms of their prediction, Elon comes on the call and he talks about recession and he talks about blah, 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 and he doesn't give a number, I think we could see below 200 again.
Wow. Wow. See, and I'm predicting all-time high on January 30th. So,
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Well, we'll see on January 30th.
Randy, it's about time you start listening.
I know, but I've been right a few times, Larry. I hit that 300 out of the park. I'm going to be talking about that forever.
Yeah. Listen, you know about the stop clock, right?
Yes, right twice. Yes, I get it. Okay, all right. So pre-market says that everything is up a little bit. So NASDAQ's up $19 or 0.12%. S&P is up 3.07%. Dow futures up $15 or 0.04%. So kind of looking a little bit like a continuation.
It's a slow week.
Thanksgiving week is excellent, they say, in history.
Yeah. We'll see. Time will tell.
We've got the Bitcoin at 37.4, so it's still in that kind of trading range it established over about the last 2 weeks, waiting for that ETF, I think is I know Kathy's got a different opinion, but I think they're waiting for that ETF. If the ETF happens, probably going to go crazy. Maybe I should buy some.
Why do you think so?
I think the biggest question always, my limited understanding of crypto is that the biggest problem is how do you move it? The liquidity, the private individual or even the small business liquidity without, ending up spending a lot of money for, converting it into currency or other currencies. So this
Good
ETF
point.
is supposed to help. Yeah.
Good point.
All right. So let's see now. I've got after that, we've got the dollar down 10%, over the last 10 days. What do you think?
I'm surprised. When oil gets down that far, typically there'd be a counter movement. It's hard to tell what's doing the damage. I have to think that some of the problem is this doubt about Biden's health.
Oh,
I think it's pretty serious. It's pretty serious. So I think we're in for a really rough next year.
okay.
I cannot see how Biden can run. I just cannot see it.
And so even if he lives, even if he's able to continue to govern, at some point he has to step aside. You think he'll step aside?
I don't think he wants to, and I don't think he will willingly do that. But I just think that the Democratic Party will have to really take serious counsel as to whether they can run him. And then, if they do run him and he does win, how does he manage 4 years? And who's going to be his VP? Are they really going to let Kamala Harris remain as VP? I mean, he could lose just on that basis alone.
Yeah. But how do you politically take her off the ticket? Man,
how do you do that? How do you do it? I mean, how do you this is going to be an interesting
So gold is up $5 in the pre-market at 1985. So it is now moving back a little bit towards that, towards the 2000 level, maybe. But with dollar coming down, it usually is also counter to the dollar.
Nick Curtis is calling for gold. He's saying that that's the way to go. It's gold.
Yeah. Copper way down. Well, it was down earlier today, down some more in the pre-market.
A recession is coming.
A recession is coming.
Winter is coming.
Okay.
Copper, I'm telling you, copper is much better than all those things you quoted to me up to now.
Oh.
It knows. Copper knows. It has a PhD.
Okay. And oil in the the pre-market is unchanged at 77.60. So it has moved up a little bit over the last couple of days. The Saudis OPEC said today that they might be willing to cut, and the same article quoted that the Saudis are probably going to extend their cuts into the new year. But if anybody believed that, the market didn't move very much based on that, only just this much. So oils and gasoline, by the way, they're saying might be at the lowest price at Thanksgiving since 2020 at the pump.
If you look at China, emissions, the quality of air in China,
yeah,
it's better now than it's been in years and years and years.
Wow.
Not because they're running clean energy, but because business is, I mean, in general, economic activity is down.
I see. Interesting.
And when economic activity in China is down, it is bad for oil, period.
All right. Now you say that the copper has the PhD. In this particular climate of the last year or so, the bonds have had a principal place in the command of everything else. And so what we've got right now is we've got bonds at 4.402. Could be dipping by tomorrow morning under 4.4. And you say?
That's what happens in a recession, my friend.
I don't know, Larry. You seemed more upbeat last Friday in terms of the economy in general. I'm still calling no recession, no inflation. And again, my reason for saying no recession is because I believe productivity is going to win the game.
Productivity does not gain in the short term. Productivity gains in the medium to long term.
I'm looking at this reversal of the poor productivity of the 18 months to 2 years. And the reversal was so strong between second quarter and third quarter, it was absolutely almost miraculous, going from a negative to a positive 4.5 or something. So I'm looking at that productivity number to continue to be extremely strong, and that we will, and that reversal of the productivity I mentioned this on one of my programs the other day. What I'm looking for next is the marginal worker, the marginal employee is going to be let go. This is the next level. They were holding on to those marginal employees because they didn't know where they're going to find the next employee. Small businesses are still saying they can't find enough quality people. The person that they need for that small business is probably the employee that the medium-sized, the large cap company is going to be getting rid of. And that person will slide very nicely into that small business situation. Yeah. So I think that's our next shift. And that's going to be good for those mid caps, and it's going to be good for the small businesses.
So, that's very good observational economics, at the micro level. And you could be right. In the 1980s, we saw from 1980, mid 80s or early 80s till 2000, we saw incredible productivity gains.
Yes.
That, saved the country. By the way, at the same time that the motor industry, US motor industry, was just dying. I mean, just died. Yes. They built the most terrible cars in the world. So it's interesting, but it was the computer revolution, right? The IBM, PC, or Apple, and then the IBM PC. But and so you could be right, but it doesn't happen that quickly from year to year. It happens slowly over a 4, 5, 7 year period. But I've just on this trip to New York, and everywhere I went in New York and all the way up and down the coast, just the shortage of people, everywhere I went.
So, that's not over yet. That's not over yet. But it'll be very interesting to see how it all develops in 2024. But in the meantime, we do have another 6 weeks of 2023 to enjoy. And Larry, I guess I'll just say happy turkey to you. And and then we'll see you on Friday afternoon. We will have a show, Good News Friday on Friday. And anyway, thank you so much for helping us.
Just one word about Thanksgiving. One word about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Only an immigrant can truly understand the meaning of the Thanksgiving Day, because I'm telling you, having been able to have the privilege of coming to this country, my family on Thanksgiving truly, truly give thanks. And I'm sure that's true for every immigrant in this country.
I'm sure many of them, at least. It hasn't been so clear, Larry, on the streets of some of our cities over the last few days that they're thankful to be here. But I think for the most part, you're 100% right. Thanks again for joining as co-host today, Larry, and to all of you out there. It's been great talking to you.
Happy Thanksgiving all.